I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. An absolute pleasure to have you here with us in London. Huge congrats on this movie.
Thank you.
I believe the first one became the most viewed Apple feature of all time.
It did, yeah.
What does it mean to you when a movie gets so embraced by audiences in that way?
Well, that's one of the reasons, one of the main reasons, I think, why you make movies is for audiences. And I think, this one, the first one, it found its audience, and that's all you can ask for.
And what do you think the sort of secret ingredients were that made it such a hit? I guess this kind of something quite old school in that combination of kind of action, humor, something for the whole family. Obviously, this electric chemistry, particularly between Mark and Michelle. What do you think it was that really hit home with people?
I think that chemistry was great. I think that, ultimately it was a relatable family, even though, okay, one of them used to be a government assassin, I admit. But apart from that, they were very normal. And I think that made them relatable. And I think despite, some of it being about people trying to kill them and shoot them and chase them and drive them off the road, a lot of it was about how you handle your sort of infuriating 15-year-old son.
Did you already have in mind where you might take a sequel? Because, of course, you want to have that continuity, but you also don't want to repeat yourself. And I feel like you've sort of gone bigger and badder, there's kind of even more chaos. There's maybe a bit of a hint of Born Identity in the European settings. So did you already have this in mind, and how do you decide the direction?
I think we did love, America is a glorious place to shoot, but they literally drove across America in the last film. So yeah, we thought, come on, let's bring it home. I'm from London and it's my home city. And of course, Paris is great. And, they're both beautiful cities. It's a very heightened Christmas time. So I think that we just, as you say, we wanted to slightly up the game.
And being in some of these locations, I mean, I don't know if you had a favourite scene. There's so many to choose from across Paris, across London. Maybe the double-decker action scene.
I love the double-decker bus. That is sort of, we literally did drive a bus through it. But also, filming a car chase in Montmartre was fantastic, because that's an iconic area that I've known for most of my life. And to actually be able to do a huge car chase there was really fun.
Anything go wrong, or was it all smooth?
Loads of things went wrong, but fortunately no one got hurt. I think we were very safety conscious. We wanted to look after our cast and crew. But, with things like that, several times, a car would crash when it wasn't supposed to, and you go, oh, damn, let's have to get another car quickly.
And, what do you think it is that's so special about this connection between Michelle and Mark? What is it that really makes them sort of play off each other so wonderfully on screen?
I think they're very easy with each other. They're both really confident without being arrogant that they're good at what they do. And so they come on set sort of excited rather than nervous, and sort of with a good idea rather than having no plan. And I think the two of them sort of worked in a kind of equal way. So I think they were just so relaxed, and it was really fun to watch.
Were they doing a lot of their own stunts? How did that all go? I mean, Michelle has some pretty badass scenes, particularly.
Almost all. She has to jump across a huge street. She has to fight this lethal woman, assassin. And yeah, basically they're both very good at the physical stuff, and they both like to do their own stunts. And so there were a couple of times I just had to say, no, you can't, because we can't get insured, because they were just game.
And I was reading that, it probably did feel like a genuine family reunion, bringing everyone back onto set. What were those first moments like, and was it a wonderful feeling?
We were all just thrilled to be back, I think. We had such a good time on the last one, and funny enough, this one happened quite quickly. So suddenly, after a few phone calls, we were all back in London and, rehearsing, and it was just great to put the band back together.
Obviously bringing in some new characters as well. I remember Kit Harington saying, when he played a complete different character in the most recent season of Industry, that he was really kind of enjoying, I guess, after Game of Thrones, leaning into his villainous side. And he just plays it deliciously here too. So was that someone you always had in mind for that?
I love him. And you're right. We know him as the sort of the height of noble valor and so on. And I think, he was very good at that. And I think he obviously loved that show. But I think he was thrilled to have a little bit more mischief to him.
And did you have any favourite scenes with him?
I think there was a scene in an art gallery with him and Mark. And there's a lovely little scene, I won't say where it happens, but it's in a prison. And there's a real bond, even though these people are, or one of them is trying to kill the other. There is an unmistakable bond between them.
And of course, Redder's Omar, was that another kind of interesting kind of dimension to bring in, particularly being the boyfriend. You know, is that something for their parents to kind of grapple with?
That's it. You know, I've got daughters, and I'm very suspicious of their boyfriends. You know, basically they shouldn't have them, but unfortunately they don't listen to me. But yeah, I think Redder was really fun, and I think, you know, there's a really great dynamic between him and Mark throughout the film, because Mark's character Dan really is suspicious, and there's a real needle throughout the film, and it's really fun to watch.
And you had these twins playing the 4-year-old. Was that like
Twins, that's right. I mean, it works. When it works, because of course you've got to look after young kids. You can't work them for long hours, and so one gets tired, and then you just bring the other one in. And Peter and Theo they look very, very similar. In fact, they have quite different characters. So you have to really concentrate on making sure that Max seems the same throughout.
And I was wondering, perhaps, as I said at the beginning, one of the appeals is it does have that slightly old school energy in terms of it being kind of this action comedy that appeals to the whole family. I wonder, were there movies you particularly loved growing up that kind of injected some of that energy into your movies?
Well, I think it's very different from this one. One of my favourite films is The French Connection, which is quite a violent police procedural thriller. My favourite film is probably The Graduate, which is it's a family movie, but a very twisted one. So, but yeah, you know, I think we all love things like Die Hard and Home Alone, you know, and even It's a Wonderful Life, you know, the Christmas classics that people are still watching, you know, 20, 30, 50 years later.
And was that something quite intentional then, to feed in kind of that Christmas element to the story? And of course, this, you know, this message that's there, you know, it doesn't matter where we are as long as we're together at Christmas.
Well, that's right. Christmas or holiday, depending on what you look for. It's a very lovely, heightened time. It's when families come back together, but sometimes they don't come back together because they're busy. And sometimes they do, and they just fight because, you know. So I think it's really a really intense and joyful time, but there's so many options for families to show what they're like.
And was that one of the main things you'd like people to take away from watching it, as well as going on this high-octane thrill ride and also having some really laugh-out-loud moments?
Well, yeah, I'd love people to watch it on, you know, Boxing Day or Christmas Day or Thanksgiving or whatever, and to watch it with their family and see themselves. And there's a little bit of escapism, but there's a little bit of facts that they should face.
And as a Brit, I guess, working in this sort of very American sort of world and cast, what do you think some of the differences might be? Do you find those worlds easy to traverse? Even things like comedy, we can say. I mean, maybe we get a bit obsessed with our British comedy, but maybe there are some differences there.
We do. You know, the humour's different, and sometimes people don't quite get my level of sarcasm. So I have to I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. But, you know, my wife's American. I love the Americans. So there's a bit of a crossover. So I sort of, and actually, you know, the actors we were working with, they have a really good sense of irony. And, you know, they're not the cliche American with no sense of humour. They get it.
And what's going to be next? Are we going to see a third, or have you got other projects that might be percolating?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, one day I have to make a film without Mark Wahlberg, but it's such fun that I sort of kind of want to keep doing it.
And what is it about him? Because I feel like he does just have this brilliant energy about him for the action and for the comedy, which not all actors can nail.
Well, he can do the sort of trinity. He can do the action, he can do the comedy, but he can also do. You just believe him as a father. You believe him as a guy, rather than a sort of mesmeric figure. He's never going to be boring, but he can look like a very normal dad.
Well, I think that's my time up. But thank you so much for sharing all that with me. Huge
My
congrats
pleasure.
on the
It's
sequel.
lovely
I
to
can't
see
wait
you.
for everyone else to see it.